Hi everybody, Mike here from AV Invasion. Right off the bat, I just have to say that I know it might seem a little bit weird that I'm putting women in a top 12 list according to their beauty. It might come off as a bit chauvinistic or something, but I really don't mean it to be that way. In fact, what I feel like I'm doing is I'm honoring the classic beauty that people just seem to have back in the 50s and 60s. And even as a kid, when my dad introduced me to the whole show, because he loved watching it, I remember just being like, wow, she's really pretty. So in a way, this is just me going back and reminiscing and just naming off the women that I thought were the most beautiful as actresses in the Twilight Zone. And by the way, I should mention that there are going to be a lot of spoilers in this video. I kind of talk about a lot of the episodes, and I just can't help it. I have to sometimes let a few things slip as far as spoilers go. Number 12 is an episode called Jess Bell, which just today I realized sounds like Jezebel. I can't believe I never knew that before. But the actress is Laura Devon as Elwyn Glover, and she kind of plays like a rich girl who wins the heart of this kind of dopey dude who reminds me a little bit of like Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies. Great hair, but he just seems a little bit, I don't know, daft, if you will. But then you have this Appalachian beauty named Jezebel. And by the way, she's played by an actress named Anne Francis, who may or may not be somewhere further up on this list. You'll have to wait and see. But she has a big problem with this rich girl suddenly, going after her ex-boyfriend, Billy Turner. And so she actually goes to find a witch to take care of it. I'll leave it at that. It's a great episode. So this dorky dude has these two beautiful women after him, and I just kept thinking, man, how did he pull this off, Maybe it's just slim pickings back then, I don't know. Number 11 is from an episode that I can never remember the title for. It's called Of Late I Think of Cliffordville. It's just not the most catchy title. But the actress is Julie Newmar, and she plays Miss Devlin. That is quite the name. And she plays the role so perfectly, because she's sort of a devil figure. She wears these really cute devil horns, and her name's Miss Devlin. So right away, you kind of know what she's going for. And both of those things already make her just exotically hot. And it doesn't hurt that she has that kind of sultry voice and that devious energy. And just the look in her eyes when she's talking, she kind of has what people used to call bedroom eyes. I don't know if they still use that term, but she definitely has them.
Nothing was mentioned, Mr. Feathersmith, about changing your chronological age.
So you can see why she easily made my list, and all I gotta say is I'm glad I've never been tempted by her, because it'd be really hard to continue to walk the good path with Miss Devlin around. Just a little tidbit, she would eventually go on to become Catwoman, so I think she fits the bill perfect. She just has that Catwoman energy. Number 10 is an episode called 22. It's a great one. The actress's name is Arlene Martel, and she plays, I believe they call her the morgue nurse. What a title. And by the way, just like a few of the actresses today, she plays in multiple episodes. So she's also in the one called What You Need. Now in 22, she plays that morgue nurse, and spoiler, she eventually plays a stewardess. But all she has to say in this episode are 5 words.
Room for one more, honey.
Almost everybody who sees 22, they always wonder, who was that nurse? She just has such striking features. If you take a look at her face, she's got that exotic model look. The cheekbones, the eyes, the eyebrows, everything just comes together perfectly. So you can easily see why Rod Serling would have her back for another episode, because she really brings this class to the show. Coming in at number 9 is Vera Miles as Millicent Barnes in the episode called Mirror Image. I love the name Millicent. I wish it would make a big comeback because it's pretty classy sounding. And by the way, she plays the sister of Marion Crane in the Psycho movie, the original. And she's also in Psycho 2, by the way. This Twilight Zone episode really highlights the likability that she has. So I always think like she could pull off multiple roles. Like she could easily be a supermodel, but she could also turn around and be the mom and leave it to Beaver. I just see her going both ways easily. She just has this natural beauty, and it's real easy on the eyes when you see her on the screen. The episode's pretty great too. The whole time she really has to just play a character that's really confused and then gets angry, and then there's a big reveal at the end, so I highly recommend it. Number 8 is an episode called Number 12 Looks Just Like You. And so you have an actress named Susie Parker playing Lana Curbally. Curbally? I don't know how to pronounce that. Cuberly. We'll go with that. Now, Susie has this striking beauty that you could see from a long ways away. Like if she was standing a mile away, you could just see from her facial structure to her poise that she just has that supermodel type energy. And Twilight Zone being so far ahead of its time, it's talking about the future when you're able to choose to change your whole look, your body, your face, everything to look like a supermodel, basically. And so Susie Parker plays a character that has already chosen which model to look like. So you have a brunette model and a blonde model, basically. I just kept picturing a world full of women that look like them. And after a while, if everybody's beautiful, you got to ask yourself, is anybody beautiful anymore? Because the bar had been raised and everybody can reach it. So it also brings up some philosophical questions as well. And yeah, I believe it would get boring after a while if everybody was as beautiful as Susie Parker, but I wouldn't mind living in that world at least for a couple years. I believe number 7 should be talked about way more, and it's the episode called Little Girl Lost. And they say that it's basically the inspiration for Poltergeist because it's about a daughter who disappears basically into her bedroom wall, which is another dimension. And the mom, Ruth Miller, is played by Sarah Marshall. And she just has this look to her, like right off the bat. She's wearing a robe basically the entire episode. And she has these big eyes and blonde kind of mid-level hair. It's kind of messed up a little bit because she had been sleeping. And this is actually a compliment. She kind of has like a mousy look to her. So very beautiful, almost like in a Lady Gaga type style. I found that it's really hard to put into words why I'm so drawn to her in this episode, but if you watch it, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Number 6 is one of my favorite episodes of all time. It's The Midnight Sun. And the actress is Lois Nettleton, and she plays a lady named Norma, who's basically trapped in a nightmare where the sun is just getting hotter and hotter, and the temperature's going up, and everyone's sweating to death, and there's no relief in sight. It's funny because Lois Nettleton has so much natural beauty that in the beginning it almost seems like they tried to cover it up, in vain, because she was wearing this painter's covering thing and she had, her hair back in a ponytail and her makeup was kind of melting off because of the heat and all the sweating, but you can't cover up natural beauty for very long. And in fact, her putting her hair back in a ponytail made her kind of look like Audrey Hepburn in the movie Sabrina, the early part of the movie before she cut her hair. Spoiler for that one. And I really did take into consideration the role that they played in the Twilight Zone, not just, the way they look 100%, but also just the, presence they had on screen. And a lot of that has to do with their acting. And so her being a very kind neighbor in this one definitely helped. And towards the end of the episode, she's basically drenched because, she's been sweating for so long. Her hair is getting wet. Her dress is all matted to her body and she still looks like a knockout. All right, number 5, we're going to go back to the episode called 22. And the actress is named Barbara Nichols, and she plays a lady named Elizabeth Powell. It was pretty easy to put Barbara in my top 5. It's sort of a given. I think what I like about a lot of the actresses on my list is they all have sort of a Audrey Hepburn thing happening, who is basically, my lifelong crush. But Barbara has more of a Marilyn Monroe thing going on. And I think that was the debate back then. Are you more of a Marilyn girl or an Audrey girl? It was kind of like the polarities of beauty. So Barbara plays a woman who's becoming unhinged over time, and she plays the part perfectly. Even as a kid, when I first saw this episode, I remember thinking to myself, man, when I get older, I'm going to have to make a lot of money, because if I want a wife like her, I'm going to have to buy her like martinis and diamond necklaces and fur coats. Such a weird thought for a kid to have, but that's just the way my brain was working. So yeah, she just comes off as a lavish, high-class woman. Number 4 is a fan favorite of the Twilight Zone. It's The After Hours. It's one of my favorites as well. It stars Anne Francis. I already talked about her. And she plays a lady named Marcia White. Now, between the 2 episodes, I would have to say that Anne's beauty really shines in this episode in particular. What really caught my eye the first time I saw this was she was basically yelling at this clerk, and her eyes just had this fire to them. She may also have the most perfect nose, from what I can see. Anyhow, I can see why they chose her to play, once again, spoiler, basically one of those mannequins that come to life, because her basic features kind of look like it would be from a mannequin. So when later on in the episode where she turns back into a mannequin, it's not that big of a difference. It had to be nice to know that you looked that much like a mannequin back then, because, you were basically the symbol of beauty at all the department stores. I should also mention that there's another actress that plays a main character, and her name is Elizabeth Allen, and she has a lot of classic beauty as well. She just didn't quite make my list. I do have a couple of honorable mentions that I'm going to throw in there, but she was just on the outside of all that. Number 3 is from a very polarizing episode called 5 Characters in Search of an Exit. I talk to people who just love this episode. They're just like, you know what? There's so much dialogue and it really pulls you in. And that made me really think that this could perhaps be the Breakfast Club of the Twilight Zone episodes. But then other people say, oh, it's boring. The big reveal at the end's cool, but everything else is just lame. Well, in the episode, there's a ballerina, and her name is Susan Harrison. That's the actress's name. All I did was I took a still of her character, and I put it in this Twilight Zone page that's on Facebook, and it got like 800 likes instantly. People love her character. And of course, Susan Harrison is gorgeous as the ballerina. But another thing I like about her in this role is there are 5 characters. And for the most part, the other characters are kind of freaking out because the whole idea is they're trapped in this thing. They don't know what's going on. But she plays the calming figure. She has this real good vibe to her. So Susan as a Zen ballerina just won me over easily.
We don't know who we are. We don't know where we are.
I'm afraid for number 2 that I almost forgot about this episode because it's actually in season 4, and that's where they started to do longer episodes. I believe they went from 30 minutes to 60. Sometimes I skip over the season a little bit because it just seems like some of the episodes drag on for a long time. But there are a few in there that I really love, and Miniature is one of them. The actress's name is Claire Griswold, and she plays Alice the doll. She's elegant, she's classy, she plays piano, she reads, just everything you would expect like a Victorian doll to do. And it is not lost on Charlie Parks either, who's played by Robert Duvall, by the way. Great acting in this. So Claire is the doll in this little dollhouse, and basically Charlie's the voyeur. He's just watching her and talking to her and falling in love with her. But she's so pretty. She's got that Audrey Hepburn thing once again. Sorry to keep saying that name. She also becomes even more alluring because she's ignoring Charlie the whole time, because she's not supposed to know he's there. She's just supposed to be this, doll made out of wood that just goes about doing her own thing. And so she's not listening to him. She just continues playing piano or nibbling toast or whatever she's doing. But I have to say, Charlie gave us guys hope at the end, spoiler, because, he's persistent and eventually, he gets the gal. All right, I have to sneak 3 quick honorable mentions in here because I just couldn't leave them off the list. The first one is from the last episode of the entire franchise. It's called The Bewitching Pool. It's a very strange episode. But the mom in the episode, played by Dee Hartford, and the mom's name is Gloria Sherwood, I guess, she has an intensity to her that I just could not ignore. The next honorable mention is from the episode called The Prime Mover, and it's Christine White as Kitty Kavanaugh. Once again, a bit of a Hepburn thing going on, this time with short hair. And she's actually in another episode, the really famous one called Nightmare at 20,000 Feet with William Shatner. The Twilight Zone had a couple episodes with really great music, and the episode called Come Wander With Me is a great one for that. So the actress named Bonnie Beecher plays Mary Rachel, who's this singer and guitar player who's kind of just wandering in the woods. But it was really one of those things where I couldn't deny her natural beauty. She's got long hair, her bangs combed to the side, and she just has this look like she would be an alternative indie artist if she was an actual musician these days. All right, we made it to number 1, and I think it's basically a given. It's from the episode called Eye of the Beholder, and it's Donna Douglas as Janet Tyler. Now, I should admit that I'm probably biased because I grew up watching the Beverly Hillbillies, and everyone, including me, had a crush on Ellie Mae, of course. And just the whole setup in this episode is so great. The bandages, around her head, even though I believe that was being played by a different actress. I'm sure Donna Douglas is like, can you just get someone else to do all the weird bandage stuff, and I'll be there when you take off the bandages. Well, once the reveal happens, you're just struck, at least I was, by how beautiful she is. Kind of a Marilyn Monroe thing happening, but softer, almost like Dolly Parton, I would say. And then you have the juxtaposition of the doctors and the nurses and their pig faces and all that compared to her. And this is the great twist of the Twilight Zone, is when they considered her to be ugly because she didn't look like them. And even she did. She's like, oh, why do I have to be so ugly? And it's so funny seeing someone with her looks saying that.
Why do we have to look like this?
Thus the title, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Let me know if you agree with my list and if I left anybody off, because there was a lot to choose from, but I just had to narrow it down. Otherwise, this video would have been like an hour and a half, Okay, everyone, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of my choices and who you would add to the list or take out of the list. And we'll catch you later. Thanks. Bye.